Good afternoon. I always say I love a rowdy crowd, especially in the library. It's great to welcome so many forward-thinking education leaders to the campus of Case Western Reserve University. I'm Barbara Snyder, and I'm the president. And I think many of you know, or at least I hope you do, that our campus actually has a long history of pioneering efforts involving technology. In 1971, for example, we were among the first 15 sites to host ARPANET, which was the government precursor to the internet. The others included Harvard and Stanford and MIT and Carnegie Mellon. In 1984, our technology leaders launched something called St. Silicon's Hospital and Information Dispensary, which was a medical school pilot project designed to give Clevelanders the opportunity to have their healthcare questions answered through a community computer system, a precursor, very early precursor to WebMD and those kinds of sites. 4 years later, that initiative had expanded so significantly that it was renamed Cleveland Freenet, and by 1995 it had more than 160,000 users. In 1989, Case Western Reserve became the first university to have an all-fiber optic network, and in 1996 we were among the charter university members of Internet 2. Here's the thing though, all these firsts are great, but what ultimately matters most is what we actually do with the cutting edge technology. All too often we celebrate the shiny new toys, but then we go on to use them exactly as we always have. Think of the overhead projector that succeeded the chalkboard, and then the projection screen that succeeded the overhead projector. Throughout every iteration, each time, the same Roman numeral, capital letter, outline, first chalk, then marker pen, then computer pixels. Is that progress? Not exactly. The tendency is a key reason why gatherings like this are so important. As many of you are fortunate to have multiple like-minded individuals on your campus, we know and you know that digital innovation is still young enough that those engaged in exploring its promise can still feel a part of something small and exciting and happening right now. Many of the faculty you hope to involve came of age when the card catalog was, well, cards. How do you influence people to take on new opportunities, embrace them? What return can you assure for the time and energy they'll have to put into that? Well, the best strategy, I think, is to engage on both the macro and the micro levels. For the former, what technology is more macro than Google? 4 years ago, the search engine giant partnered with researchers from Harvard and MIT and staff from the American Heritage Dictionary and Encyclopedia Britannica. They tackled the contents of more than 5 million digitized books issued between 1800 and 2000, a total of more than 500 billion words. Here's what they learned. The word men was used 7 times as often as women in 1800, more than 3 times as often as women in 1900, but by the mid-1980s, the frequency lines crossed, and in 2000, the word women was about 30% more common. The term God reached its greatest frequency around 1830 and then began a steady decline in the ensuing decades. In 1980, its lowest point, the word was 5 times less common than 150 years earlier. Since 1950, Sigmund Freud has been at least twice as prominent in scholarly works in print as Galileo, Charles Darwin, or Albert Einstein, all of whom share fairly comparable levels of mentions. The Nazis' designation of select authors and artists as undesirable included banning their works and burning their works. That had the greatest impact on the usage of their names in the disciplines of philosophy, politics, and art. Those who wrote history or literature experienced far less printed suppression. This is just a sample, but it underscores the myriad discoveries possible through digitization projects and analysis. If an individual attempted to read just 1 year's worth of the 2 centuries that those researchers covered, the process would take at least 80 years, and they can do it in seconds by analyzing it digitally. To many of the people in this room, I'm sure these findings are the stuff of your everyday lives. You work with this all of the time. But for the rest of us who don't live in your world, it is new, it is compelling, and it is an extraordinary window to the realm of the possible. Why do we like to hear so much about it across the mainstream media? Well, of course, because things like organizations like Google and Harvard are involved, and everybody thinks that when they're involved, it's big. With big impact findings like those now front of mind, we can count on our most creative faculty members to ask, how can I get in on this new wave? Here's where the micro or the grassroots level of engagement really matters. When it comes to undergraduate admissions, for example, we often say that no one at Case Western Reserve is as influential with prospective students as our current students. The same is true about faculty with regard to emerging technologies and approaches. It's one thing to hear a great staff member from our library say, this technology is so terrific, you really ought to try it. But it's probably more meaningful when that colleague is a colleague from your department, another department, or another school across the campus that is extolling the virtues of a particular new technology. Now, that's where our Freedman Fellows program comes in. Our faculty can secure support for projects involving digital data. When you review some of the examples, well, I think they're inspiring. Our professor, Noelle Jufrida, created a database of images of Buddhist art that her students can magnify online to examine more closely, and then link to visual and audio information about the artists. Our music professor, Daniel Goldmark, collaborated with library staff to use digitized collections of sheet music from 1890 to 1925 to trace the development and the impact of the New York artists and businesses collectively known as Tin Pan Alley. His goal was to help students understand how music becomes popular through the devices of the mass media. Finally, our English department lecturer, Mark Pedretti, examined literary artifacts surrounding the atomic bombing of Hiroshima, drawing primarily upon the famous 1965 Japanese novel, Black Rain, along with photographic archives of Hiroshima both before and after the bombing. He used the novel's obsessive attention to place names as a way of visually reconstructing the city for his students. As a result, his students got to see a place that for many Americans only looms large as a distant abstraction, and they got to really experience it. So we feel privileged to be able to offer these opportunities on our campus, and the name Freedman is a key reason why. In 1937, Samuel Freedman graduated from Case Western Reserve with a degree in economics. As he experienced the business world, he came to the conclusion that we've all reached at some point in our professional lives, we have way too much paper. But he didn't just complain about it, he did something about it. In 1946, he launched Microphoto, a company that photographed printed material to put it on microfilm and microfiche. The venture quickly found traction with newspapers, including the New York Times, and Microphoto's success in turn led to Freedman's second entrepreneurial venture, which was a company that converted rare book collections to microfilm. Being such a forward-thinking person, Samuel Freedman ultimately decided that he wanted to give back to his alma mater, and he wanted to do it in a way that would increase the chances that graduates following after him would graduate with an innovative bent. What better way to target his investment than our library, a campus hub for research and learning and discovery? After all, Shelby Foote, the historian, described a university as a group of buildings gathered around a library. I know Arnold Hirschhorn agrees with that completely. Samuel Freedman and his wife Marion established the Freedman Endowment in 1990. They charged our library to use the money to find ways to increase the effective use of technology in learning and teaching and research. The couple added to the endowment over the years, and Samuel's family continued the engagement even after he passed away in 2006. 2 years ago, Marion joined her sons Walter and Howard in making a new $500,000 gift. They structured the commitment as a challenge grant, meaning that we had to attract matching funds. As a result, the overall endowment grew by $1 million. The record of our Freedman Center, of course, is one of the main reasons that they increased their support. But just as important was the work of our leader, our librarian, Arnold Hirschhorn. He engaged the family in strategic planning efforts, shared his ideas about the new opportunities that could be realized with the additional resources, and he inspired the Freedman family to step up and give that additional gift. Now, thanks to that new gift, our initiative is now called the Freedman Center for Digital Scholarship. It offers a broad range of services provided through new discipline-based specialists and state-of-the-art database systems. In addition, the library has been leading extensive engagement on our campus with entities like the Baker-Nord Center for the Humanities and our new makerspace and innovation hub that we call ThinkBox. Said Samuel's son, Walter, "I have a strong nostalgic feeling that I'm keeping with my dad's legacy. It was another time and another era, but the principle remains the same." The story of the Freedman family underscores the third essential element of our efforts to advance digital scholarship here at Case Western Reserve, and that is engaging people beyond the walls of our campus. It is wonderful that all of you are gathered here for this conference, and we hope that you will return to your home institutions with all kinds of ideas and insights and practical advice, and we hope you will share your ideas and insights and practical advice with us. We also expect that you will afford some new connections with people you can consult, people you can vent with, whenever you encounter those bumps in the road, and there probably will be some. Just as significant, of course, are those of you who are here from outside the academy. You are here because you are excited about the possibilities, and if you're anything like our own Jared Bendis, you are truly passionate about what's going on with the digital world and libraries. Jared regularly presents at a spring event on our campus called Research Showcase. Whatever he does, it is so cool that people literally congregate around his area. It doesn't always have to do with digital scholarship, often it does, but the exhibit's appeal gives him a chance to start conversations about the digital resources in our library. And so, with due apologies to the guy in the subway commercials, I urge you to emulate Jared, not in the low-calorie sandwiches you eat, but in the high-octane outreach that you begin today. Speaking of sandwiches, I know you're just about to have lunch. You've had a full morning, so let me just say a few quick thank yous and get off of here. First, to Arnold, to Jared, Roger Zender, everybody else in putting the event together, thank you. I know it's a tremendous amount of work to pull a conference like this together, and you all have day jobs. And we are really grateful for your effort, and we appreciate your leadership. Second, a special thank you to the River Campus Libraries at the University of Rochester, Vanderbilt University, and Washington University in St. Louis. We truly appreciate your partnership with us in this endeavor. And third, I want to effusively thank our sponsors, among them Dell Computer and MCPC. The latter is a firm right here in Cleveland that provides exceptional expertise and puts so much into our community here. Also, our Information Technology Services Office and the College of Arts and Sciences co-sponsored this event as well. And finally, thanks to all of you for coming. Your presence, I hope, will advance your work, but also remind us how much energy and potential surround this whole area. You are inspiring all of us, and we are grateful. Thank you very much for being with us today.